Okay guys, welcome to another video. This video we are looking at multiplying and dividing by multiples of 10. So when we're talking about multiplying or dividing by multiples of 10, we're actually talking about multiples that are 10, 100, 1000, 10,000. And even if we're talking about multiplying, for example, by 40, there's still tens in that. So we're doing 10 and 4. And we'll do an example with that later, but we just got to always remember that when multiplying by tens and using this technique, it's only if that multiple starts with 1. So 10, 100, 1000, 10,000. So multiplying. When multiplying by multiples of 10, we're going to move the decimal point, and that's the little point between that makes it a decimal number. We're going to move that decimal point one place to the right for every 0 in the multiple of 10. So when we multiply by 10, we move one place to the right. When we multiply by 100, where there's 2 zeros, we move 2 places to the right. And when we multiply by 1000, we move 3 places to the right. So let's do some examples. Example number 1, 85 times 10. Now, the first thing we need to do when doing these types of questions is identify where the decimal point is. Now, in every number, there is always a decimal point, even if it's not written. If it hasn't been written, it's at the end of the number. So in this case, 85.0 is the same as 85. Now, we can move that decimal place one place to the right because we've got 1 0 in our 10, and our answer will become 850. Now remember, that decimal point is essentially here, but we don't need to write it. The next one, 85 times 100. So again, we identify that decimal point as being after the 85, and we move it 2 places to the right because there's 2 zeros in 100, and our answer is 8,500. Now I want you to pause it, go do 85 times 1,000, then come back. So 85 times 1000 is 85.000, and I wrote the 3 zeros there because it's easier for me to move that decimal point. Now, we've got 3 zeros in this 1000, 1, 2, 3, so we're moving it, our decimal point 1, 2, 3 places, and our final answer should be 85,000. Now, 2.31 times 10. So again, we're moving that decimal place one place to the right, and so we end up with 0.1. So 23.1. Now pause it and do the next two, this one and the one afterwards, and then come back. So this one again, we're moving our decimal point 1, 2 places because we've got 2 zeros in 100, and we end up with 231. And our final one of 2.31 times 1000, I've put an extra 0 there because otherwise there's not enough places to move. And I go 1, 2, 3 because there's 3 zeros in 1000, and we end up with 2,310. Now, what do we do if multiplying by something, say 40? That's what we're going to look at now. And to start with, we're going to go, what is 231 times 4? So 231 times 4, and I'm doing my little multiplication sum over here. So 231 times 4, well, 4 times 1 is 4, and 4 times 3 is 12, so I carry my 1, and 4 times 2 is 8, plus 1 is 9, so my answer is 924. Now, 231 times 40, this one's a bit different. This is a multiple of 10, so we can still answer this question, but there's just an extra step. So the first thing we need to do is split this 40 into 2. So we've gone 4 and 10. Now if we go, what is 4 times 10? Your answer is going to be 40. So we still haven't changed anything. It's just that we've made it look different. Now, we know what 231 times 4 is because we worked it out up here. So we go 924 times 10, and we can easily do this one because we multiply by 10, we move the decimal point one place to the right. So our answer is 9,240. Now let's do the same again. I want you to pause it and go and do this one and see if you can work it out. So 231 times 400. So the first thing we're going to do is 231 times 4 times 100. Now we know 231 times 4 equals 924. And then we're going to multiply it by 100. So what we get is 92,400 because we've moved that decimal place 2 places. 1, 2 because of 2 zeros. Fantastic. Let's now look at dividing. When dividing by multiples of 10, we're actually going to do the opposite. We're going to move that decimal point 1 place to the left for every 0 in the multiple of 10. So when we divide by 10, we move the 1 place to the left. When we divide by 100, we move it 2 places to the left. And when we divide by 1,000, we move it 3 places to the left. So let's do some questions, some examples. Example number 1, 2,679 divided by 10. So again, let's identify that decimal point, which is at the end after the 9. And we're going to move it 1 place to the left because we've got 1 0 in 10. So our answer becomes 267.9. Now, 2,679 divided by 100. Again, here's our decimal point, and we're going to move it 2 places. So 1, 2 to the left, because there's 2 zeros in 100, and our answer becomes 26.79. Now, 2,679 divided by 1,000. I want you to pause this, go and do it again, go and do the question, and then come back. So what you should have is, again, our decimal point at the end. 1, 2, 3 places to the left, and we end up with 2.679. Let's try a different one. So these ones are a little bit easier when our number we start with finishes in zeros. So in this case, there's 2 zeros here and 1 here, and if there's at least zeros in both of them, we can actually, what we say is like drop the zeros. So we drop 1 0 from here and 1 0 from here, and what we end up with is 350 divided by 1. And 350 divided by 1 gives us 350. So pause it, do this one, and come back. So in this case, we can drop 2 zeros because there's 2 zeros in both of these numbers. Now, when we're talking about the zeros being in this number, they have to be the last numbers. If there was another number here at the end, we couldn't do it because they're not at the end. So again, we drop that one and we end up with 72 divided by 1, which gives us 72. Now, this last one's a little bit more tricky. We can still cancel out our zeros because there's 2 in each, but what we end up with at the end is 54 divided by 9, and 54 divided by 9 gives us 6. So it's very easy, you just drop it and keep the 2 numbers then, and we end up with 54 divided by 9, which is 6. So now you're going to do some questions. If you have any questions, make sure you ask like always. Thanks, guys.